Welcome back to the deep dive. We often see these big celebrity endorsements, especially in the luxury world. Think fancy cars, watches, spirits. We see the ads, the social media posts, but rarely do we get to actually peek behind the curtain and see how those deals really work. What's the actual business behind the glamour? So today we're diving into one of the most visible examples, Rick Ross, the boss, and his huge connection to Luke Belaire sparkling wine. And this isn't just about, sipping some bubbly. It's about trying to understand that complex mix of cultural cool, marketing muscle, and the often hidden world of equity stakes. Like, how much real wealth is he building from this?
That really is the core question, isn't it? And our mission today is to unpack that. We want to figure out how these kinds of deals get structured and maybe more importantly, are they actually smart deals financially? We've pulled together quite a bit: press releases, marketing reports, business data, even a sort of college report style analysis of it all. Now, getting hard numbers is tricky, private companies and all that, but we're going to connect the dots on what we can verify versus what's still kind of speculative.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're diving into the world of the boss and his champagne,
Yeah.
well, sparkling wine empire. Where did Luc Belaire even come from before Ross?
Right. So Luke Belaire itself wasn't born out of hip-hop. It was launched back in 2012. The company behind it is Sovereign Brands, based in New York. And they're not exactly newcomers. They've had success with other high-end drinks. Think Armand de Brignac, Ace of Spades, and Douce Cognac. They know this space.
Ah, okay. So they already had a playbook for luxury beverages. But it feels like Ross wasn't just another celebrity face they slapped on a bottle. His involvement felt different. How did that actually start?
You're absolutely right. It seems like his involvement was a real game changer for them. Sovereign Brands definitely built the foundation, got the product out there, but Rick Ross, he brought this massive wave of cultural cachet, something you can't just buy.
And it seemed to happen pretty organically, didn't it? Like starting around 2013, he wasn't just doing formal ads. He was dropping Belaire's name in songs, showing it constantly on his social media. It just became part of his whole persona.
Exactly. It wasn't a slow build, that constant, seemingly authentic integration. It just shot the brand into the limelight, especially within that hip-hop audience. And it evolved. After they released the Rosé blend, he became an official brand ambassador. That formalized things. His promotion became relentless, really. And that directly boosted Belaire's visibility, and you've got to assume its demand. He wasn't just posing with it, he was making people want it.
Yeah, the cultural impact is undeniable. You see the black bottles everywhere in music videos, clubs. But here's where it gets really interesting for me. How do you translate that cultural cool into, like, actual business numbers? How do we measure that?
Okay, so that brings us to this metric called earned media value, or EMV. For anyone not swimming in marketing jargon, think of it like this. It's the price tag on all the free publicity a celebrity generates. If Belaire tried to buy that level of exposure, all those mentions, all that screen time through traditional ads or PR, what would it cost? That's the EMV. And it's a pretty standard third-party metric.
Right, so it's like quantifying the buzz. Instead of paying for a billboard, Ross is the billboard just by living his life online. What kind of numbers are we talking about for Belaire?
The numbers are, well, they're pretty staggering. Based on the reporting we reviewed just between January and August of 2023, so an 8-month stretch, Luke Belaire pulled in a total EMV of $65.8 million.
Wow, okay.
But get this, Rick Ross himself was responsible for 91% of that total.
91%.
Yep. That translates to $59.9 million in media value generated just by him.
How? Just how?
Constant posting. The data showed he was referencing Belaire roughly 7 times a day during that period. Over 8 months, that added up to like 1,782 mentions.
7 times a day. That's dedication. Or just really liking the product.
Or both. It highlights the sheer power of weaving a product into your personal brand authentically. People aren't just buying the wine, they're buying to the lifestyle he projects with the wine.
That's incredible marketing value. But hang on, is EMV the whole story? I mean, couldn't someone just spam posts all day and rack up EMV without actually selling much? Does it always equal real impact?
That's a fair point, and you're right, just volume isn't everything. The key with Ross, it seems, is the authenticity factor, or at least the perception of it. It feels less like a forced ad and more like part of his actual life. That drives genuine engagement, not just views. So while EMV is a proxy, a stand-in metric, with someone like Ross who has such a strong, defined persona, it's probably a pretty good indicator of real market impact. It's definitely a powerful card to hold in negotiations.
Okay, so a very strong marketing hand. But does he have the winning financial cards? That leads to the next question. If that's the marketing buzz, what about the actual money the brand is making?
Right, moving from buzz to bucks. When you look at estimates for the brand's revenue, keeping in mind it's a private company, sources like corporate databases, Owler, for example, put Luc Belaire's annual revenue somewhere in the tens of millions. One estimate we saw was around $35 million annually.
35 million. Okay, that's serious money for a sparkling wine brand that wasn't really a household name before Ross.
Definitely significant, but then you get these other numbers floating around.
Ah, yes, the social media whispers. What have you seen there?
This is where we need to tread carefully. We came across this claim mainly in places like Facebook comment sections, saying something like, Rick Ross's beverage company, Luc Belaire, has generated over $130 million in revenue by 2024. Now, we have to stress, this $130 million figure, it's not backed up by any official filings or verified reports we could find. It sounds much more like fan hype or maybe misinterpretation. With private companies, you always have to take those kinds of viral claims with a huge grain of salt. The real numbers, they usually keep those very close to the vest.
Okay, so big marketing value confirmed. Actual brand revenue, probably solid tens of millions. But these nine-figure claims, likely just noise. So what does this actually mean for Rick Ross's personal bottom line? How does he get paid?
That's the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? Since the actual contract isn't public, we have to piece it together based on how these deals typically work in the spirits world. The analyses we looked at suggest it's likely a combination of things.
And the big one that is often mentioned, even if the details aren't, is equity, right? He reportedly has a stake.
Correct. It's reported he holds an undisclosed equity stake, specifically in the Luc Belaire Rare Rosé variant. That signals more than just being a paid face. It suggests he has some skin in the game, some ownership.
But undisclosed is the key word there. We know equity exists, but how much? What are the terms? No clue.
Precisely. That part's a black box. Beyond that potential equity payout, there are other likely income streams. You've got your standard ambassador or promotional fees, just flat payments for showing up at events, doing appearances, keeping the social media buzz going. Pretty standard for A-listers.
Yep.
Then there are likely co-branded product royalties if they do a special Rick Ross edition bottle, or maybe just for the rosé he's tied to. He probably gets a percentage of the sales for that specific product, that SKU.
Okay, so fees for his time, maybe royalties on specific bottles, plus that mysterious equity slice. Is there anything else maybe less direct?
Yeah, absolutely. There's what you might call ancillary revenue or value. Think about the doors he can open for Belaire. His influence might help them get into certain clubs, distribution deals, maybe even international markets. That has real value for sovereign brands. And that kind of help can translate into benefits for him down the line, maybe favorable terms on other deals, gifting, strengthening his overall relationship with the parent company. It's about the whole ecosystem.
It's fascinating. He has this immense, measurable influence, driving potentially millions in value, but the core financial piece, that equity, which could be the real wealth builder, remains totally hidden.
That's the crux of it. It really highlights the difference between being a massively effective brand booster and being a true equity owner who captures the long-term value appreciation.
So to put Ross's situation in perspective, maybe we should compare his approach to some other big names in hip-hop who've done major spirits deals, like Diddy and 50 Cent come to mind. How does Ross's Belaire deal stack up against their models?
Great comparison because they represent really different strategies. Let's start with Diddy. His big play was the partnership with Diageo for Ciroc vodka and later DeLeon tequila. That Ciroc deal was, by all accounts, incredibly lucrative for him for many years. We're talking reports of profit-sharing structures that potentially netted him hundreds of millions over the life of the partnership. But the model there was different. He partnered with a massive global distributor, Diageo. Huge reach, huge potential payouts. But it also meant less control and tying his brand tightly to a corporate giant, which, as we've seen recently, carries its own risks. High reward, but high dependency.
Okay, so Diddy went the big corporate partner route. What about 50 Cent? He seems to have tried a couple of things.
Exactly. 50's journey is interesting. First with Effin' Vodka from about 2014 to 2017. He was a minority shareholder and the main spokesperson. He reportedly sold his stake in 2017 for around $60 million. That's a classic equity exit play. Get in, build value, cash out from a brand owned by someone else.
But now he's doing something different with Sire Spirits, right? Branson Cognac, Le Chemin du Roi Champagne.
Totally different. With Sire Spirits, he's the owner, the founder. He owns the company outright. That model gives him maximum control and keeps all the potential long-term financial upside. If Sire Spirits becomes massive, he reaps all those rewards. But It also means he's running the whole show, dealing with production, distribution, all the headaches of being an owner-operator.
So 3 very different paths. Where does Rick Ross fit? What are the pros and cons of his Belaire strategy compared to Diddy and 50?
Looking at Ross, the strengths are pretty clear. First, undeniable cultural impact. That massive EMV proves he can move the needle for a brand. Second, he likely gets income from multiple streams fees, maybe royalties tied to specific products. And crucially, his model seems to involve a low operational burden. He's not running the day-to-day of sovereign brands. He gets to be the face, the influencer, likely collect checks and equity gains without getting bogged down in the nitty-gritty. Less risk, less overhead.
That sounds pretty sweet, honestly. Leverage your fame, get paid, avoid the corporate grind.
Yeah.
But what's the catch? What are the potential weaknesses or risks?
The biggest one, as we keep saying, is that lack of transparency on his actual equity. We just don't know how significant his stake is. If it's relatively small, his long-term wealth creation might not compare to owning the whole thing like 50 Cent or having a massive profit share like Diddy reportedly had. There's also a degree of dependency on sovereign brands, their strategic decisions, their exit plans. Those could heavily impact the value of his stake, especially if it's tied only to specific products. Some of the analysis we saw suggested that to really maximize this, someone in his position would want, ideally, clear equity terms, maybe a combo of royalties plus equity in the parent brand, not just a single CQ, maybe even a piece of distribution.
Right, trying to secure more control or guaranteed upside. So connecting all these dots, the big question we started with, is the Rick Ross-Luke Belaire deal a smart deal for Ross himself?
Based on everything we can see from the outside, I'd say yes, it's smart, but with some important qualifications. From a brand building and influence perspective, absolutely, yes. He's a master at turning his cultural capital into measurable marketing value. That EMV is proof. He keeps his name hot, stays relevant, and if his financial arrangement includes significant equity or very favorable royalties, then yes, it's also financially smart because he gets that income without the day-to-day operational headaches. It's efficient leverage of his celebrity.
But the qualification is key. When you put him side by side with his peers, he doesn't seem to be hitting those kinds of massive, publicly reported windfalls that Diddy got from Ciroc, which was structured almost like a co-ownership payout for years.
Exactly. And he also doesn't have the potential long-term upside and total control that 50 Cent has by actually owning Sire Spirits outright. So Ross's upside might be capped compared to those models unless his secret equity deal is just incredibly generous. Without knowing those private terms, we can't definitively rank who made the best deal in pure dollar terms.
Which really makes you think, doesn't it? What does smart even mean in these massive celebrity deals when the most crucial numbers are kept private? Is it just about the biggest possible check, or is there real value in mitigating risk and operational burden?
I think that's the perfect summary. Ross's strategy appears very smart for leveraging his specific strength, his cultural influence, while minimizing his operational risk. He gets to be the boss, the face of luxury, without managing supply chains. Whether it's financially optimal compared to owning the whole company or having a huge profit share, that entirely depends on the deal points hidden behind NDAs. It's a calculated play, balancing influence, income, and effort.
So what a journey. We started with the origins of Luke Belaire, saw Rick Ross transform his cultural standing, quantified his huge impact with EMV, and then tried to untangle the murky world of his actual deal structure compared to others.
And I think what really comes through is this fascinating dynamic. Cultural influence is powerful, it's even measurable to some extent, but translating that influence into maximum long-term personal wealth, that often comes down to ownership structures and financial terms that usually stay firmly behind closed doors.
It definitely leaves you wondering. So let me ask you, the listener, what stands out to you from this? The next time you see a celebrity holding up a product, promoting a brand, what kind of deal do you imagine they have? Are they just getting a check? Do they have royalties? Do they actually own a piece of it? And how does that change how you see their relationship with that brand? Is it genuine partnership or just clever marketing? Lots to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the business of celebrity brands.